It's the middle of the night, 40,000 years ago. You wake up between two other bodies. Someone's arm is across your chest. Someone else is breathing 3 feet from your face. For your entire life, you have never once been physically alone. Think about the last time you felt truly alone, even in a crowded room. That specific ache, the sense that nobody really sees you. Your ancestors never felt that. Not because they were happier, but because the entire structure of their lives made that feeling biologically impossible to have. Today, you live surrounded by more people than any human in history, and somehow, you feel it more than they ever did. Let's start with what loneliness actually is, because it's not just an emotion. In 2018, psychologists John and Stephanie Cacioppo published a framework called the Evolutionary Theory of Loneliness. Their argument is straightforward and a little unsettling. Loneliness isn't a malfunction, it's a warning system built by evolution to work exactly like physical pain. Hunger tells you your body is running low on fuel. Loneliness tells you your social bonds are running low on protection. For a species that couldn't survive alone, an ancestor who felt nothing when isolated from the group was an ancestor who wandered off and didn't come back. The ones who felt a sharp, uncomfortable pull to return, to reconnect, to fix the broken bond, were the ones who lived. You inherited that alarm system directly from them. Cacioppo's research also found that this alarm state doesn't just make you feel bad, it sharpens attention toward threat, disrupts sleep, and puts the body into a kind of low-grade vigilance. The same physiological posture you'd expect from someone actually facing danger, not someone simply spending a quiet evening at home. So the feeling itself isn't new. What's new is how often it goes off with nothing to fix it. Here's what ancestral life actually looked like, structurally. Hunter-gatherer bands typically numbered somewhere between 15 and 50 people, and within that group, you were rarely more than a shout away from another person day or night. Anthropologists studying groups like the Hadza and the Juhuansi have documented something called allomothering, where childcare wasn't just a parent's job. Aunts, grandmothers, older siblings, and unrelated adults in the band all took turns holding, feeding, and watching children. A baby in this world was almost never alone, and neither was anyone else, at any age. Food was shared, not because people were saints, but because your survival tomorrow depended on the same people who fed you today. There was no version of coming home to an empty room. There was no room. There was just the fire and the people around it, every single night of your life, from birth until death. This is where the loneliness alarm and daily life lined up almost perfectly. The alarm exists to push you toward reconnection, and reconnection was always, structurally, one shout away. The system worked the way it was designed to work, because the environment never stopped supplying what the alarm was asking for. There's a related idea worth mentioning here, even though it's genuinely debated among researchers. In the 1990s, anthropologist Robin Dunbar proposed that humans can only maintain roughly 150 stable social relationships at once, a number he derived from comparing brain structure across primates and cross-checking it against recorded hunter-gatherer group sizes. The number shows up again and again in historical records, from village sizes to military units. Not every scientist agrees the number is as precise as 150. A 2021 statistical review found the underlying method produces a huge range depending on the data used, anywhere from roughly 20 to over 500. But the broader point holds up regardless of the exact figure. Your ancestors' social world had a natural ceiling, small enough that everyone in it was someone you actually knew. Modern life doesn't have that ceiling anymore. You can have thousands of online connections and genuinely know almost none of them. Which means the size of your social world exploded while the part of your brain built to feel secure inside it never got the memo. Then that structure disappeared, piece by piece, and the alarm kept ringing anyway. Agriculture broke up the band into individual households tied to their own fields. Cities let you live surrounded by thousands of strangers you'd never speak to, packed close in space, but not in relationship. Industrialization pulled people away from extended family to chase jobs in unfamiliar places, trading a lifelong support network for a paycheck and a smaller apartment. And in the last few decades, something even stranger happened. You can now go an entire day, technically surrounded by contact, texts, notifications, feeds, video calls, without a single moment of the specific kind of presence your alarm system actually evolved to recognize. Being near a screen showing other people's lives isn't the same signal as another body breathing 3 feet away. Your nervous system knows the difference, even when you don't consciously notice it. The numbers make the gap hard to ignore. The World Health Organization estimates that roughly 1 in 6 people worldwide experiences loneliness severe enough to affect their health. In 2015, researchers Julianne Holt-Lundstad and colleagues published a meta-analysis pulling together decades of mortality data across hundreds of thousands of participants, and found that chronic loneliness and social isolation raised the risk of early death by roughly the same margin as well-known dangers like smoking or obesity. The odds weren't small. Isolation and living alone each carried something in the range of a 26 to 32% increase in mortality risk, even after researchers controlled for other health factors. Your alarm system isn't being dramatic when it makes isolation feel unbearable. As far as your biology is concerned, it's not wrong. It's responding exactly the way it was built to respond to a threat that, for nearly your entire evolutionary history, actually was life or death. So, put it together. The feeling hasn't changed. Your ancestors carried the exact same alarm system you do, tuned by the same evolutionary pressure, primed to go off the moment connection felt threatened. What changed is the environment the alarm was designed for. It expects a fire, a group, a body within arm's reach, ready to answer the moment it goes off. Instead, in the modern world, it often gets a phone screen, a closed door, or a message left on read. The alarm keeps ringing, insistent, physical, impossible to reason your way out of, because it isn't a thought you can argue with. It's older than thought. Nobody built a way for it to actually get answered anymore, and so it just sits there, firing, waiting for a response that the modern world was never designed to give it. This is the strange part most people miss. Loneliness doesn't feel like sadness. It feels like danger, an actual physical sense of exposure, because to the oldest parts of your brain, it still is. Not because being alone in your apartment tonight will actually kill you the way wandering off from the band once could, but because the machinery reading the situation has no idea 40,000 years have passed. It's still running the same threat assessment in a world that no longer matches the one it was built for, checking for predators in the dark instead of unread messages on a screen. For nearly the entire span of human existence, you were never once out of reach of another person's breath, another person's warmth, another person's help. That constant presence wasn't a comfort layered on top of survival. It was survival, the whole point, the actual mechanism keeping you alive one day to the next. We built a world with more humans in it than ever existed before, spread them across screens and cities and separate front doors, and kept the alarm exactly as sensitive as it's always been. Your ancestors never had to sit with that ache, not because they were tougher or wiser, but because the world simply never let the alarm go unanswered for long. You do, almost every day, surrounded by more people than any human who ever lived, and your body still doesn't understand why nobody's coming.